we find out they've lied about it. Starmer lied about this. He actually insisted time and time again it was only 3.4 billion. And now we found... So this is why he has no credit with the British people anymore, because they don't...
It's the epitome of socialism, isn't it? What Thatcher said was that the problem with socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money. I wonder if it was Diane Abbott that did the maths on this.
Possibly, yeah.
You can have your...
Because why we're paying it back over 11...
35 billion to hand our own islands to Mauritius and rent them back. Starmer swore it was only 3. 4 BN another barefaced betrayal. How many more lies before Britain wakes up?
Thanks to Reeves. It's going to be 85 billion thanks to this deal. So this is how stupid they are. And it's, you know, it's... Lammy's been partly responsible for this because he was pushing it because he's obsessed with decolonisation. And in being obsessed, he has removed a strategic, vital asset to this country. One that was used in the Iraq War, one that was used to fight Al-Qaeda. Because I don't trust for 1 second this 99-year deal.
I think it might have also been used, I think the Americans might have used it in that bombing raid on Iran as well. Yep. So there you go. Russell, I'll bring you in on this. OK, so we've got the numbers on this, which are annoying. I think could account for something like 70 hospitals, the entire policing budget, all of that stuff. So that's annoying. But is there a wider fundamental point here, which is that there is the perception of deception about everything that comes out of Downing Street at the moment?
I don't think it's a perception, it's a reality. I mean, you listed very accurately lots and lots of things that Keir Starmer and the front bench have said that they were going to do and they haven't done. I mean, look, he is the ultimate Walter Mitty of politics, isn't he? And actually, when it comes to the Chagos thing, I mean, to the point Carol makes in terms of, you know, why he's doing this, this is because he's hat-tipping the globalists, the WEF. This is all about the International Court of Justice, who have said that if there was a challenge, we would have to give the Chagos Islands back to Mauritius, which is a non-binding opinion. It is not a ruling an opinion. Yeah. So actually, and it's a bit like the Falklands, it's a bit like Gibraltar. I mean, maybe they're next. Who knows? I mean, you wouldn't put anything past this man, frankly, given that he hates everything related to the Commonwealth and so on. So maybe that's part of his philosophy. We've got to give everything back to those that he thinks actually originally owned it. But the point is, it is deception, it is lies. And yes, again, to the point that when it was the Conservatives talking about pieces of cake that may or may not have been eaten, people were calling for the head of the Prime Minister and got it. Yeah. And now we've got a Prime Minister lying over £35 billion worth of taxpayers' money, plus the black hole, plus asylum costs, plus. Surely he should not only apologise to Parliament, but actually should be impeached, or the equivalent of it being impeached.
OK, well, so on that, is he a liar, Benjamin?
No.
OK. He just makes a lot of mistakes. Well, no, go on, let's see what we need to...
Well, first of all, whatever the cost of the Chagos deal is, it's over 99 years. It's not as though it's suddenly absorbed in one, and so it's not half of the education budget or the whole of the policing budget, as the monologue suggested. I think that's a bit misleading. The fact is that actually, you know, Keir Starmer is trying to restore stability and dignity to this country, and we have suffered on the world stage.
How does the Chagos Islands figure into that philosophy?
Brexit meant that our position in relation to the Chagos Islands was weaker. African countries...
Hang on, that's a bit of a stretch, Benjamin.
This is tough.
That's a bit of a stretch.
They're not off the coast of France, mate.
The Chagosians never wanted this deal. The Mauritians...
Well, they haven't even been asked.
They haven't been asked, but they didn't want it because the Mauritians have treated them incredibly badly. So what are you talking about?
Because many African countries had started to argue against our position in Chagos, and it was weakening us on the world stage.
Tough. What do you mean on the world stage? In respect of what?
Principled positions on issues like Ukraine and occupation.
We're not only giving away a piece of our territory, we're paying somebody else 35 billion quid for the privilege.
Just say to us, why, instead of doing... What the Labour government are trying to do, really, is use quite a clever accountancy trick, which I will now probably struggle to articulate.
It's about inflation.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So go on. You just explain how they've managed to do the mental gymnastics on this.
So this was challenged by the opposition. The numbers were not disclosed. So the government normally disclosed the workings out, a bit like in an exam in maths. You have to show your workings out to make sure that you've done things correctly. So the government refused to show the workings out to the opposition because they have invoked this creative accounting, which is to say that they take off the forecasted inflation over those 99 years to get to a net 3.5 billion. It's sleight of hand. It's deception. It is...
You don't do your own finances like that, do you?
No, but no, you don't.
They haven't done it on any other deal.
I don't work out my wages in 10 years' time and take off inflation, or the cost of my car payment and take off inflation. Yeah. It is deceitful.
But I think, the Treasury, I think in the story, the front of the Telegraph says that this is a standard way to measure things when you have an upfront cost. And so it's not as though this is the only place they've used it.
Why won't they disclose the workings?
That's the point.
Do you know what? I don't think you can put a price on national security. And ensuring...
Explain how it's a matter of national security.
In the long term, that's why...
How is it a matter of national security?
Lessons on national security. We did not have to give them.
Did you hear what I said? There is no binding law or resolution that says we have to give them back to Mauritius.
Both Joe Biden and Donald Trump backed this.
Well, Joe Biden
they know that this is in our interests, and that this is a pivotal area of national security.
Do you know the other thing that we've got to do? In the wording of this deal, hang on one second, this is very important. In the wording of this deal, because of the deal we've now done, we now have to disclose to Mauritius, who are in bed with China, every military move we make.
China's going to benefit from this, not us.
Well, look, clearly, Labour would say, and they do say, they're not lied about this. They've not lied about it. As Benjamin was saying, this is maybe an accountancy trick that we use in other aspects of things as well. But Carol, the fact is, Keir Starmer must have known this was going to come out.
Of course.
He wasn't up front with people. He wasn't, he talks about reintroducing dignity and respect into politics, didn't he? And here we are.
What amazes me is that this government has no idea about strategy. They're incompetent. They have no idea about strategy. And they keep on lying to us, thinking we're not going to find out. And every single big decision they make, we find out they've lied about it. Starmer lied about this. He actually insisted time and time again it was only 3.4 billion. And now we found... So this is why he has no credit with the British people anymore, because they don't...
It's the epitome of socialism, isn't it? What Thatcher said was the problem with socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money. I wonder if it was Diane Abbott that did the maths on this.
Possibly, yeah.
You can have your...
Because why we're paying it back over 11 years.
You can have your condescending quips, Russell, but the fact is that even when Liz Truss had her brief summer internship as Prime Minister, even she sat down to try and do this deal.
Hang on.
And we all know that the economy is in a far worse place now than it was in September 2022.
When Cameron was in power, when he was Foreign Secretary, he looked at it, he said, this should not happen. There was nothing progressing this deal. It would never have happened.
I think every Tory Prime Minister afterwards looked at doing this deal.
And they did do it.
I think, yeah.
It's acquiescing to globalists.
It was a Tory Foreign Secretary that arranged the deal that eventually got signed.
And they didn't do it.
With ourselves on. I think there is that... So the headline news of the day, obviously, is that now the Chagos deal is costing, roughly speaking, 10 times more than they told you it was. That's bad enough, because that is your money. But there is that wider point there, I think, which is that are we really now in a situation where we all accept that there's spin in politics, don't we? We all accept that there is some form of spin. That's the way it is, and you do a bit of a PR job on try and hide the negatives from people. But, I mean, this is an absolute whopper, isn't it? And it's the latest in a long line of absolute whoppers. And now I fear that we're in a situation where whenever our Prime Minister speaks, you just assume he's lying. And that's...
Look, I'll tell you something, this whole interview just reeks of the same old, tired leftist playbook. They always try to paint themselves as the reasonable ones, the ones who are just trying to restore dignity and respect to politics. But let's be real, it's all a smokescreen. They're just trying to distract you from their disastrous policies and their blatant disregard for the truth. Take this Chagos Islands deal. They act like it's some kind of grand strategy, a necessary evil for globalist reasons. But let's break it down. First of all, it's about money. They're handing over a strategic asset for a price tag that's 10 times higher than they initially claimed. That's not accountancy trickery, that's plain old deception. They're trying to pull the wool over your eyes while lining their pockets with your money. But it's more than just the money. It's about principles. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's tough. This deal weakens our position on the world stage. It's a surrender to the whims of globalist organizations like the International Court of Justice. They act like the Chagos Islands are just some piece of land, but it's a symbol of British strength, a testament to our history, our commitment to our people. And what do? They sell it off to Mauritius, a country with ties to China. Do they even care about the security implications? I doubt it. They're too busy chasing their utopian dreams of a globalist utopia, oblivious to the real-world consequences of their actions. Then they try to justify it by saying, we were forced to do this. But I'll tell you what real leaders don't surrender. Real leaders stand up for what's right, even when it's unpopular. Remember when we had strong leaders like Margaret Thatcher? She wouldn't have let this happen. She understood the importance of strength, of standing firm. This isn't about accountancy tricks. It's about morality. It's about principle. It's about standing up for what's right. They say it's standard practice to use this kind of accounting. But you know what? I don't care about standard practice when it comes to betraying our history, our principles. They talk about accountancy tricks and globalist pressures. They're trying to make it sound like they're doing it for globalist reasons. They try to distract you with their fancy words, their accountancy tricks. But it's all smoke and mirrors. It's a way to make you forget that these are selling out our people for their globalist agenda. They talk about globalist pressures and accountancy tricks to make it sound like they're doing it for the greater good. But it's all a lie. It's about power. It's about control. It's about weakening Britain. They talk about globalist pressures and accountancy tricks to make it sound like they're doing it for the greater good. But it's all a lie. It's about power. It's about control. It's about weakening Britain. They talk about globalist pressures and accountancy tricks to make it sound like they're doing it for the greater good. But it's all a lie. It's about power. It's about control. It's about weakening Britain. They talk about globalist pressures and accountancy tricks to make it sound like they're doing it for the greater good. But it's all a lie. It's about power. It's about control. It's about weakening Britain. This is not about globalist pressures and accountancy tricks to make it sound like they're doing it for the greater good. But it's all a lie. It's about power. It's about control. It's about weakening Britain. You see, the left always tries to make it sound like they're doing it for the greater good. But it's all a lie. It's about power. It's about control. It's about weakening Britain. The left always tries to make it sound like they're doing it for the greater good. But it's all a lie. It's about power. It's about control. It's about weakening Britain. The left always tries to make it sound like they're doing it for the greater good. But it's all a lie. It's about power. It's about control. It's about weakening Britain. This is not about greater good, but it's all a lie. It's about power. It's about control. It's about weakening Britain. Let's be real. It's about power. It's about control. It's about weakening Britain. Look, it's about power. It's about control. It's about weakening Britain.